Hi, this is Jason with Mad Cow Web. Today we're going to build a shortcode. So let's get started. Um, I use the same little chunk of code every time I need to add a shortcode to a site. The main reason that I add shortcodes is to show custom posts. There's other ways to do it. In Gutenberg now you can use custom blocks and use ACF with those custom blocks. But I'm just going to do the simplest way that I'm really comfortable with, and we'll go that route. What we're going to do today is just simply show how to get a shortcode on how to put a shortcode on any page, and then we're going to incorporate our custom post type with some advanced custom fields in there, and then show how to loop through that and show it on the page. All right, so the very first thing is this first chunk here. Again, what I recommend is if you're going to end up doing this often or whatever, I just save this in a cheat sheet that I have, a little PHP file, so I can just copy and paste it into the new site. So what it basically does is on init, and we've talked quite a bit about adding action, like that add action function. So we're grabbing the init function and then we're adding our own action to it. And in this case, we're just adding shortcodes. So then I simply create the function and then I add the shortcode. And the process that, and if you've been watching any of our videos, you kind of know that I have a pretty good understanding of PHP, and WordPress PHP is what I like to refer to it as. But the nitty gritty details I'm not very comfortable with. So in this case, I know that the first string that you put in here with the hyphen is what I'm going to use on the page, which you can see on the right side of my screen. And then the second string here is the actual function that we're going to call. So the first thing is what you're going to put in the WordPress editor, and I'm going to show you Elementor as well because I use Elementor for all of our sites now. And then the second piece is the function. And then if we scroll down a little bit here, I've identified my function, or defined it, I guess. And then all we're doing is we're creating a variable, which is what we're going to put our content into. And then with a shortcode, you have to return that content. It's kind of like a filter. So we're going to identify what that content will be on line 124, and then we're going to return it to the screen on line 126. So in your page editor, and I think I mentioned this before, I'm not a huge fan of Gutenberg. I find it just confusing. I'm sure there's a million articles out there about everybody's opinion on it. But anyway, so I'm just going to use the default editor. You can do this very similar in Gutenberg. I believe there's actually a shortcode block you can use. But the content will be the same, which is simply this. It's just this square bracket and your named shortcode, which we did right here, inside the square bracket. Now, there's a bunch of different things you can do with shortcodes. You can add attributes. So for example, if we had a custom post type of cows and we only wanted to show cows of a certain category, you can put the category inside the shortcode. We're not going to get into that at all. This is just a very, very simple shortcode with no attributes and no fancy stuff like that. So I have the shortcode in my editor. What I typically do as well is I try to always put it in the text editor. You can use the visual editor. What I found in the past, I'm doing this in April of 2024. I found in the past if you put that shortcode in the visual editor, that WordPress will sometimes put those paragraph tags around it, and that can kind of mess up your shortcode. So I always put it in the text editor, and then we just simply hit update. And then if I go to my shortcodes page on the live site, if you will, you can see that it's got my H1 tag, show cows shortcode is showing up right there. And if I change this to show awesome cows shortcode and save that and refresh, it shows up on the front. I'm going to stick with this page for the rest of the video, but I do want to show you that in Elementor, they have a shortcode element. I don't know what they call those things. It's not really a widget, but, and so again, the same thing here. I hope that's big enough. Ooh, get out of the site settings. So basically, I'm doing the same exact thing. You can see I'm just putting the shortcode in my brackets. It looks exactly like it does here on our regular default editor. And when I save that and refresh, you can see I did it before I started the video. If I refresh now, it says show awesome cow shortcodes. So Elementor makes it really easy to put shortcodes anywhere you want on your page. So I'm gonna get rid of my Elementor one for now. So here's our regular page and here's our regular editor. Okay, cool. So what I've done in the background here is I like the custom post type UI plugin. I'm gonna go to my plugins so you can see. It's right here, custom post type UI, made by Web Dev Studios. It's super handy. You can actually take the custom post type that you've created and extract the PHP and dump that in your functions file and get rid of the plugin. It's super handy. I generally just kind of leave it in there because if I ever have to edit the shortcode, it's much easier with their GUI interface. And I'm using, these are both free by the way, I'm using the ACF Advanced Custom Fields plugin to create my custom fields. So if we go to our custom post type UI and edit post types, you can see that I've created a post type called cows. I've done all my titles in here, and then I haven't really done much in here except I put this cute little buddy cons icon, which you can see right here, so you can create your own menu icon. And then all we're showing, or I guess all we're allowing WordPress to do with this custom post type is show the title and the featured image, and everything else we're going to handle with ACF. I just find it's more simple that way. It's easier for me to extract the data that I need from that post, and it just keeps the CPT UI plugin from doing just the bare minimum. Just give me my post and let me add content to it. I'm not using taxonomies or categories or any of that stuff. So basically all we got here is the title and the featured image, and then if I go into ACF, you can see that I have a cow details field group, and then all we're adding is a special talent and the cow description. So that's it. And then if we go into our cows post type, I am going quickly here. We have other videos about how to make custom post types and how to do ACF, so you can go look at those videos if you want. But so I've created 3 cows. If we go look at Esteban, you can see that the normal editor, if I go back to my shortcodes page, which is a page is a post type in WordPress. There's the default editor that shows up there, but if we look at our cow, it's not there. So all we have, like I mentioned a second ago, is the ACF fields, the featured image, and the title. That's it. So I'm keeping this super simple. So you can come in here, add your content. If we go look at another cow, Esmeralda, you can see her special talent and then the cow description. So now I have my posts, and I'm just going to show, make this a little bit bigger. I'm just going to show how we get that into our page. So I'm actually going to put all of my content in here, and then we're going to go through it really quickly so you can see how I'm building it. So nothing's changed. We still have the same show cows as the name of our shortcode and the show cows function, which you can see right there. And then what I'm doing here, and I'll just go really quickly, I'm creating a container, I'm getting my posts, and then I'm running a for each loop so I can get all of my posts, all of the content for each of my posts, and then I'm closing my container. So let's go through that really quickly. The first thing you'll notice is that this HTML, this is just a variable. So just like our H1 tag, we're putting content in that HTML variable. And then what you'll notice is down here, and this is super important, I've changed the PHP to be .equals. So what this will do is, and if I left these all as equals, every time the for each went through, it would show like on one line once every three, it would give us a div class of cow, and then HTML would be the image, and then it would be the cow name. And then by the time you get down to the bottom here, we're actually, I got that in there twice, where we're actually returning our HTML, it's only going to return the last thing. So in this case, if I didn't have that dot equals, it's just going to be a closing div container. So it's not going to do anything at all. So it's super important that you have those dot equals at the end of everything. And some people actually come up here in their very beginning, and they'll just do like an HTML equals, and you can see tab 9 is completing that for me. They just start their HTML with a blank nothing, and then all of their dot equals add to it. So you can do that either way you want. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and make my HTML equal the beginning of our div container. Now, it's also important to note that this variable does not matter. We're just creating it out of the thin air, and we are then returning it on line 148. So some people put in content, some people call it whatever. You can call that whatever you want. You can call it cheeseburger if you want. So, all right, let's cruise through. So we're starting out with our container, and then I'm using get post. You can do WP query. I just prefer get posts. And then there are all kinds of attributes that you can add to your get posts array. In this case, I'm getting every cow, so that's what the -1 is for. Since we only have 3 cows, I could have put 3 in there, but I just do -1, so I just want all my posts, and then the post type has to be cows. And this needs to match, and I always mess this up. This needs to match the slug. So I always, in my brain, go back and forth, all right, should my post type slug be cow or cows? It doesn't matter. Again, if this said cheeseburger, your post type needs to match that slug. So it would need to say cheeseburger. And then I'm going to run a loop. I'm going to run a for each loop that says, for every cow that you have, or cows, I suppose, for every cows that you have, give me this information. And what I'm getting here is I'm getting the title, the featured image, and then my 2 ACF fields. Now, you can put these in down here. I just like to get them as variables ahead of time so that lines 137 to 142, I just think it looks cleaner, because what you could do is, instead of making this a variable, you could just, instead of cow image, you could do that. Oop, it returned on me. So so you could do the same exact thing that I'm doing up above. I just find that it looks cleaner to just be able to reference my my variable. And then a lot of times, well, actually, this is a great example. So a lot of times I create a longer line, if you will, or variable add-on. I'm not sure what it's called. So sometimes you'll put a link in here, ahref equals, and then up here you might have the link to the actual post, get the permalink. And then you might have the, ahref equals permalink, and then cow name, and then close your A. And I just think it's easier to read that if you're getting all your, if you're assigning all your variables ahead of time. So, all right, so we're going to loop through all of our cows. We're going to get all those cow data, all those cows data. And then you'll notice that I'm just including in here the cow ID. If you don't put that in there, sometimes it will, and again, I don't know the nitty-gritty details of this, but it will actually get the post that you're on. So for example, if I was on this page is called Shortcodes, really creative name. So what would happen is, instead of it showing us the title of our cow, it would say Shortcodes every time. So it's pretty important that inside those parentheses you tell it, hey, I want the title or the thumbnail or the field for this specific cow that you're looping through. And then I've created my container up here, and then I want my cow to have its own div so I can mess with things in there. So I'm creating a div called cow. I'm putting the image in there, again with my dot equals. Then I'm putting the cow name as an H3, and then my cow content, which is that custom field that we created, And then I'm grabbing the special talent, but I'm going to identify it so I can have my text of special talent, and then whatever that field value is in the custom post. And then I'm closing my div, and then I'm closing my end for each. So we're going to have a container, and then all of our cows inside of that container, because we're doing, right here, we're creating a div for our cow, and then I'm closing my container. Now you'll also notice here that I put a comment in most of my closing divs, and that's because this can get really long. If you have a custom post type with, let's say, like 5 or 10 or 15 custom fields, and you're pulling all that content in this for each loop, this can get really messy. And so it's sometimes challenging to make sure that you close your H3, or you closed your div, or you close your span, or whatever. So I like to get in the habit of always commenting my closing divs. So both in my PHP as well as when I'm troubleshooting on the front of the site, I can see, oh, okay, I forgot to close that div, and now my page is 20 miles long or whatever. So it looks kind of silly. And then we're just returning. Then we have to return our HTML onto the screen. And then the other thing I check, which is what I mentioned earlier, is all of my HTMLs have to have a dot equals, or it will just overwrite what's there. So let's see what happens here. I'll go ahead and save this and then refresh. Cool, there's our cows. So the reason that these look the way they do, I want to be really transparent here, is I put, and I'll go back here for 1 second. So my cows container, and then my divs, my cows themselves, are just a class of cows. So on my container, I made it flex. I gave my cows very limited, styling, and then I wanted my span down here. I wanted special talent to be big, but then I wanted the span to actually look differently. So I just styled that span. That's why those look different. So I'm going to refresh this, and then maybe even make it smaller, because that's how it's supposed to look. So, all right, that is a quick review of how to make a shortcode. Thanks for watching.